Hello, Nathan here from the South Pasadena Arts and Music Academy. I teach intermediate and advanced piano as well as oboe, and today I'm going to share a pro tip with you on how to elevate your musicality. We are going to be talking about phrasing. So what really is phrasing? When I was growing up in music lessons, my teacher didn't give me a clear definition of phrasing. They would say things like, play this more musically, or pay attention to the phrasing. It wasn't very helpful. It wasn't until a lot later in my learning that I learned objective rules for phrasing that have since revolutionized my musicality and my piano playing. So if a piece of music is like a poem, phrases are like the individual lines. Let's look at a simple poem. Roses are red, phrase 1. Violets are blue, phrase 2. How did I get so lucky with you, phrase 3. Pretty simple. How do we transfer that into the music realm? Well, we're going to use Clementi Sonatina in C, just a little bit of the first movement to do this. Now, identifying phrases in music does take a little bit of practice, but in general, if you can hum the melody, you can kind of feel where the melody has its natural pauses. So I'm going to hum this melody. There's one phrase. Here's another phrase. My left hand stops, and that's a big clue for me that the phrase is over. There we go. We have our 3 phrases. The first is 4 measures, followed by another 4 measures, and then an 8-measure phrase. Now that we have our phrases identified, we need to figure out how to play a phrase musically. So let's go back to the poem. I guarantee it that when you say this poem, you will emphasize the last word of each phrase. Roses are red, violets are blue. How did I get so lucky with you? Just as in this poem, music has a most stressed note in a phrase. Let's take a look at that first phrase again. In order to find the most stressed note, you go to the last measure of the phrase, and what I like to do is put a big old X over the first beat of the measure. Why this note in particular? Well, it's at the end of the phrase, and if we learned anything from the poem, that last word is pretty important. But then beat 1 of every measure is always sort of a more important beat. It's more stressed. That's why we do beat 1 of this measure. So now that we have our note identified, every note leading up to the X is going to lead to it, maybe crescendo. The notes are leading to the X, and every note after it is going to come away like that. Let me play for you this phrase to our X. Kind of nice, right? So if we look at all of our phrases, we can put X's over each first beat. If you don't completely understand all the ins and outs of why this all works, it's important just to remember this rule. If you use this rule when deciding your phrases in your music, I guarantee your piece will sound more musical. It will also communicate those musical ideas more clearly. It's a great tool. So I'm going to put this all together. I'm going to play this whole piece without any phrasing, meaning I'm not going to change any volume of my notes. So everything's just going to sound the same. Now I played all the right notes and rhythms. It kind of sounded pleasant, but listen to what happens when I add in phrasing. Now the music comes alive And I'm even inspired by this new phrasing. When I look at the phrases a little more, I can see that the last phrase feels like it completes the first two phrases. So I think I'm gonna play it again, but this time I'm gonna play the last phrase a little bit louder to add another level of musicality. Now that is really fun to play. Phrasing completely changes your musicality. It completely changes how your music is communicated to the audience. It really revolutionizes your playing. So I hope you enjoyed this phrasing tip. Please click on like and subscribe to our channel and leave some comments about what you liked about this video and also what kind of videos you want to see in the future. Thank you for coming to South Pasadena Arts and Music Academy, for learning about music, and continue coming for all of your music lesson needs. Bye-bye.